Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Mindset Mentoring for Athletes, Families, and Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Coach Chuck. This show is about helping people build the mindset, resilience, emotional intelligence needed to thrive in sports, business, relationships, and life. Through conversations with athletes, coaches, entrepreneurs, educators, thought leaders, we explore what it really takes to overcome adversity, navigate change, and become the person you are capable of becoming. Today's guest has built a career around helping people do exactly that. Stay with us, and we'll be right back after a brief break. Hello, everybody. I want to share one more message, another personal message. About to begin accepting applications for a family mentorship program that's been nearly 40 years in the making. It didn't start as a business idea, it actually started as a dream, one that first took shape in 1987 when I was going through Tony Robbins' neuro-linguistic programming certification. At that time, I couldn't have imagined how much that seed would grow inside of me. Over the years, that dream has been shaped by some incredible mentors in my own life, mentors who were empowering in deep ways, even without having all the tools that this program actually now brings together. It's been refined through decades as an educator, a coach, a mentor, and most importantly, as a husband and a father. This mentorship is a culmination of everything I've learned. And I say that with humility. There were seasons when I let way too many weeds grow in my own garden. And it wasn't until my wife was taken from us after a very short battle with cancer that I fully understood both the beauty of what we built and the moments I wish I'd cultivated more intentionally. Not because parents can be perfect, we can't, but because preparing children for life is different than trying to protect them from it. This mentorship exists so families can learn to cultivate strength, clarity, and resilience before storms arrive. We're opening this to a small number of families each month who understand the value of mentorship and who are ready to prioritize it and who believe that growing together changes everything. If this resonates, please share this video because somewhere out there, there's a family that is meant to hear it. And if it doesn't reach them, they'll never know. And make no mistake, the ripple effect of a cultivated garden of possibility, it comes back to impact all of us. Welcome back. Our guest today is Reid. Greg is an entrepreneur, healthcare innovator, speaker, educator, and former professional athlete whose career spans healthcare, leadership, wellness, entrepreneurship, entertainment, and human performance. Before entering healthcare, Greg played professional baseball in the Oakland Athletics organization, where he developed the discipline, resilience, and competitive mindset that would later shape his success in business and leadership. He has since built a distinguished career in healthcare leadership, earning multiple top performance awards while helping organizations improve patient outcomes through innovative technologies. Greg has also appeared in more than 25 network television shows, films, and commercial productions, performed stand up comedy, and founded and advised multiple healthcare and wellness ventures, and now serves as the founder of Edge Coach Academy through his Power Skills Reset career operating system, Edge Code framework, and his 7 stages of stuckness model. Greg helps professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders identify what's holding them back, communicate their value more effectively, and thrive in an increasingly automated AI driven world. Today, we're going to explore reinvention, resilience, identity, emotional intelligence, and what it takes to overcome unmistakably valuable in a rapidly changing world. Let's welcome Reid to the show. Welcome.
Hey, hey, Coach, how you doing? Thanks for having me on today. Awesome.
It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to having this conversation. We obviously we share uh, many interests, including baseball, as I
Yeah.
love baseball, and but also what it takes to achieve success. So let me have you begin, like I have all my guests begin, by just giving us a little snapshot about those early years, childhood, like where you grew
Okay.
up, some of those early things, and then we can jump into the meat of the conversation.
Yeah, well, again, thanks, Coach, for having me on and for the great introduction. Yeah, a little bit about me. My background: I'm a native of Southern California. I grew up in the Long Beach and Compton area of Southern California. I'm a son of a father and mother. My dad was a touring musician for a band called War. Do you guys know War? Familiar with War? Yeah, uh, good stuff. But as a byproduct of that, I ended up having living and growing up in a broken household. My mom and dad split when I was young. And in the early years, I spent a lot of time alone, a lot of time living like an only child, although I had brothers in another side of my family right down the road. But just quickly discovered that I had a lot of curiosities that I fulfilled, spending time with my encyclopedia that my grandmother brought and playing with toys and using my imagination. And I think if I think back in my early years growing up in Compton and in Long Beach, I realized that lots of things caught my attention. And because of that, it ends up leading me down fulfilling different sides of myself, different parts of myself that I probably wouldn't have discovered if I didn't have that alone time. So I go through high school playing music. I ended up finding out that I was pretty darn good at baseball. My junior and senior year in high school were pretty big years for me, where I found out that hey, maybe some major league scouts were looking at me. And at the same time, I was in college prep courses at my high school in Long Beach Poly, and finally found out that hey, man, I can probably do some things in life. And a lot of it is born from that foundation and my foundation, and knowing that we are more than one thing at any given time. And discovery, having these self discoveries allow you the opportunity to give yourself a chance to be seen by other people, to showcase your skills and your God given talents, and ultimately contribute to the world and make it a little bit better.
Thank you for giving us that. That really kind of helps paint a picture a little bit. The fact that your father was a musician kind of helped fill in some of the gaps I had too, which is kind of cool how, you got some of these uh, other backgrounds. Now, you talked in some of the information that, we shared before the show about how sports helped shape some of these mindset things that carried you later in life. And as somebody who avid sports fans, big advocate for youth sports because I
Yeah,
think I think sports are a great way of doing that. I also think the performing arts are another very great way for developing these. Can you talk
yeah.
about those early years of your baseball and the minor leagues and what some of those mindset things were that you said really helps you later on in life and how those really got um, kind of implemented in your daily life.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I'll say that in terms of baseball, minor league, early years, I was really fortunate to play professional baseball. In my senior year of high school, I was drafted by the Dodgers. I was also going to UCLA as a student on campus, academically accepted at UCLA, and I had this little bifurcation. Do I leave the college prep world or the college world at 17 and go and play professional baseball, or go down a path of college athletics, et cetera? And I think that was a better choice for me, choosing school over professional sports at that time, because it took those years of having a little bit more resilience, overcoming some injuries while at UCLA. I had a knee injury, I had a redshirt year. Then I had an elbow injury after I transferred to another school. And ultimately, in my eligible year for a draft, and the Oakland A's drafted me, but I did not play one inning of baseball that entire year. I had an elbow injury that prevented me from throwing the whole year. But fortunately, some scouts saw me. I had those basic raw tools, 4 out of 5 skills that they say you sort of need to be a worthy professional prospect. And so that led me into the minor leagues. But when you ask me that early years of minor leagues question, it's really for me, I realized that I dealt with a lot of failures before I even had a chance to put on a professional jersey. And because of that, it did prepare me for those early years in the minors and playing a few games in major league spring trainings, to know that these highs and lows are going to happen. You're going to be at the top of your game. You're going to go 2 for 3 with a homer and a couple of stolen bases one day, and the next day you're in a doghouse, man. And there's no tougher way to learn that when you're in the doghouse day 2, day 3, day 4, and then you're on a 10-hour bus ride going from Boise to some other part of the Midwest, and you're second guessing yourself. You're wondering, man, do I have what it takes to do this? Am I supposed to be here? Am I a fraud? Right? And I think what happens is those early years taught me for success for in later life. Those early years gave me a sense of knowing that these peaks and valleys are going to happen. The college years of overcoming injuries, and then in the minor leagues of having these highs and lows of looking like a superstar one day and looking like like you shouldn't have been drafted the other day. I think my takeaway is this. We are all looking for that consistent performance, that way that we show up every day being our best, so that people can recognize us when we walk in a room and say, that guy or that gal delivers value. And people know it and people can expect it, and it's consistent. It is your value proposition. So I would say the early years of baseball taught me that being more consistent allowed me to be seen and be visible and be known. And I took that idea throughout the rest of my emerging careers after professional athletics. I hope that answers the question for you.
Absolutely. It's actually what you kind of gave us in a snapshot. Is I have another podcast recently started called Champions Not Captives, with a couple other coaches. Talk a lot about baseball there. One of the things we talk about in that is how baseball does exactly what you talked about, probably better than any other sport, because there's so much of this ups and downs and failures and slumps and how injuries can play in your mind. And injuries can in all the sports, but it can really
Mm-hmm.
quickly derail a hot streak. Just a little nagging injury, a hit by pitch, and all of a sudden, your hand, you can't grip the bat quite the same, and boom, all these things. It's a great classroom for teaching how to
Mm-hmm.
deal with adversity. So, uh, thank you for kind of putting that into some really good words. I love the fact that your variety too of background. So, you got into the healthcare thing and acting and now you've got personal development stuff. And we'll talk all about those, but maybe helping us learn a little bit how transitioning and
Mm-hmm.
identity, how those can come in. And I want to frame it this way, I think, like all of us often begin to wrap our identity around our profession. I'm a baseball player. I'm a teacher. An accountant. And
Yeah.
that can, is natural to do. But
Mm-hmm.
when you begin to transition, that can play into that. And with so many different transitions, can you maybe talk a little bit about what those transitions might have taught you about how we connect our profession with our identity?
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning that. I think that is, and I will get to that my personal assessment of how that translates, with a brief story. And this is the day that I found out was my last day as a professional athlete. And I think you hit it spot on. We do attach who we are with what we do. And it's not just our internal makeup that's telling us that I'm a pro athlete, I'm a pro athlete. It is everyone around us, your friends, your family, your coaches, your teachers, your neighbors, and everyone that says that's who that guy is. That's what that guy is, right? And there's a day, it was a spring training day, and we were supposed to break for camp. And I was on a list for, well, actually, we just came back from a Bay Area series, which is a big deal. And the day after, or actually after the last game of my pro career, uh, manager calls me in his office, says, Reid, come on, have a seat. I'm like, all right, cool. What are we doing here? He goes, yeah, I'll tell you, today is a tough day for us. We love what you've given us, but this will be your last day as an Oakland A. And of course, I had some sense of what was happening, what was gapping, but it there was no debate, there was no conversation, there was no negotiation. This was it. You know, within 2 hours, I wrapped up my locker, put my shoes in my bag, and collected my belongings from my apartment, and didn't bother flying home. I had tickets and everything. I drove home and thinking of the thoughts that you have as a person. You know, we have 90,000 thoughts in any given day. And I only had one thought that whole ride is, why me? Right? Why not them? And and I realized in that moment that I am forced now potentially to find another team, which I started that path, but I wasn't bought in on it because I knew deep down inside I was more than a baseball player. I offered more to the world. Um, those childhood years of looking at different TV shows and reading up on books and literally reading the encyclopedia uh, taught me that the world is bigger than the world you contain, the world that you're occupying in this moment. And I'll tell you, it was sobering, and it was a shock to my system that, hey, suddenly this is not who I am. And I had a hard time talking to friends and family. I went into a slump. Ultimately, went back to school and finished my degree in marketing, and which is the best decision I've ever made. I'd rather attach my identity to be um, a, a college graduate rather than a pro athlete. I think that just shows more of the fortitude. It took me almost 8 years to get a 4 year degree, mostly because I was playing baseball in between. But I'll tell you, this switch in identity is very important, Coach, because I think what we have to do is we have to redefine our value proposition to the world. When I was released, I no longer had value to the organization, period. And other people showcased their value and they were retained. So the key for me is, how do I move into that next area of interest, that next curiosity stage in life, and fulfilling these things that I care about and things that make my heart sing. The way to do that is to show undeniable, indisputable value into every space you occupy. And there's a process by which I've discovered over the course of my career is that I re-engage in whenever I'm starting something new. And in my case, I was able to do things in layers. And while working in the medical device industry, I'm working on television shows, or while doing stand-up comedy, here I am starting a business. So for me, I found a way to have that polarity of being in two spaces at once, but also establishing a sense of value in each one of those spaces, and that allowed me to be successful enough that I could be considered a professional. So I think it's this value proposition mindset. Um, what am I going to do to show you or anyone else that I am worthy to be in a room? I should have a seat at the table, and I can do what that person does, and I do it a little bit differently, and I do it my Greg W. Reid way. And once that Reid way is known, then you're part of the team that can't be removed. And I've been avoiding that since the day that I found out I was released from baseball.
I love that. Now, one of the things that has fascinated me about your story too is, um, you know, the different roles that you've had in different industries and the variety of them, and those lessons you learn from baseball, but also like you could have viewed that as a potential failure, right? I didn't get my ultimate goal. Um,
Right.
Instead, it sounds like you took that as a learning opportunity, at least at one level or not. And you've done things that have so many acting, stand-up comedy. Like those are like really kind of unique things. Stand-up comedy can I have a lot of admiration for people who do that because that can be really tough. If things aren't going well, immediately that like, oh, all right, that didn't go well. And that can be kind of hard to deal
Yeah.
with. Um,
Yeah.
to business and along the way, and whatever you do, I'm assuming like you had an idea of what it meant to be successful in that particular venture.
Mhm.
And some of the information we shared earlier to talk about success versus fulfillment. So, and sometimes people get successful but don't feel fulfilled, and sometimes they feel fulfilled, but the world might not see it as being successful because you haven't, you know, you aren't out there in the public light for something that's making you feel really good inside. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about what you've learned over the years and through this idea of goal setting, success, fulfillment, and uh, and how people can take transitions and apply these lessons?
Yeah, I think yeah, we do sort of put I guess visible milestones up for what we consider to be as an outsider looking at someone as successful. It's monetary, the things you have, the notoriety you have. But internally, I think success is it's not just what I think, it's what other thought leaders would coin it as is worthy pursuit of a goal. So no matter what you're doing, if it's worthy to you and you're hitting and and you have momentum, you are even in effect successful. I'll tell you, the most successful people that are the most unfulfilled are the ones that reach this goal and they don't realize that the goal keeps moving, right? No matter what, you're going to have to achieve more. You're going to have to look for more. The next gold medal, the next big dollar contract. The goal line moves no matter what. And I think we have to remember that when we hit the line of that we thought was our end game, the unfulfillment happens when we stop shifting the goal back and knowing it is a continual process, a continual path um, toward either self-improvement or toward your worthy goal. So I think that's the mindset that I've always taken in, and in knowing that there's frameworks that you can impart into each stage of whatever it is you're doing. And for me, modeling success is the way that I've found a way to be successful, whether it's modeling stand-up comedians or the path that stand-up comedians have taken while working a full-time job. Some of them started out as writers. Well, guess what? Guess what I did? I went and found a way to be a ghostwriter for some late night TV shows, just contributing. And I had one or two jokes that the TV show bought from me, which gave me a little momentum. And then it created a story around the fact that I have the capabilities to write jokes. And then you take that on stage, and I, back in the early years of my discovery in comedy, for example, I know we're going a little off center, and when it comes to my timeline, uh, I would just go to comedy shows and watch performers like Jamie Foxx and the Wayans brothers and all of the Wayans and sit in the back, and I would hang out with them and be around them because I had friends that were successful comics at the time, and just listening and being in the environment. So that's another key is modeling the success of others, but also putting yourself in the environment so you know how it operates. So you feel fluid and comfortable in that world. And then taking the model success of framing a set, taking a model success of building a business, taking a model success of launching a sales career. All of these are formulaic in a way. And it starts with one, knowing that you're going to hit a space of your time continuum where you think you're there, but you're not really there. It continues. And fulfillment continues because it's worthy. Does that make sense?
Completely, completely. And one of the things back in the later years of my education career, the program I was running, we changed the model slightly so I could have two groups of students instead of one group of students all day. And these are kids who struggled in school for a lot of reasons. Some of them were very gifted, but lots of self-image, self-esteem
Mhm.
issues, and connectedness with students. So these years where I had two groups of students, they were half time with me and half time out in regular classes. One of the things I asked them is like, all right, so when you go to these other classes, Do you know who the smart kids are in your class? The kids who do really well? And of course, they all knew. All right.
Mhm.
Well, if you have the opportunity, this is what I want you to do. I want you to sit near them, as near as you can with them. I want you to
Yep.
try to look how they are sitting in their desk. How are they breathing? How are they holding themselves? I want you to copy what they are
Mhm.
doing. I want
Yep.
you to model what they are doing. It was hard to get
Yes.
them to do that, but there were a few times I would, we would be like all the classes come together and I would say, all right, listen, I want you to watch these guys and I want you to watch the people sitting around them and see who begins to follow who by how they sit and all. And they'd come back after. It's like, wow, when so and so changed their position, then the people next to them change their position. I'm like, yes, that's kind of the leader there. But that you can learn to take in and learn from these other people by just being around them. And it was I think it was one of the great lessons I was able to, instill in these kids about what you were just talking about. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. It's powerful.
Spot on. Thanks, man. I think it's true. And but for me, and maybe we'll talk more about the career transitions. I'm hearkening back to thinking that experience that you just shared with uh, the wisdom that you imparted uh, for them are milestones. These are sort of proof points for them to know that there's a way for this to be done. There's a way to emulate success, and then success is bestowed to you. And I think for me, that's what I used in every new career field. But as I developed a new career field, I had an anchor for the next career field. So when I talked to booking agents and before my first TV show appearance as a comedian on Comics Unleashed, I mentioned my professional baseball career. And then now I'm on stage doing things. I'm interviewing for another job role or another startup venture. Well, guess what? I'm also a stand-up comedian. Well, these are anchors, right? So these anchors of established, credible personal ventures actually help build your level of value and the perceived value that you have. Because if you're known to be good at one thing, you're probably going to be good at another thing. So I think as we talk more, hopefully, about uh, the success pathways for any of your listeners or viewers, we have to think about what are we going to be known for? What's our anchor, right? And so these things, these milestones that you imparted to them, that's part of their anchor. They're going to have that. And I think everybody's got to find that. And then from there, you can build your own story to become relevant in every room you walk into.
Perfect segue into kind of where I wanted to take this now, because as you progressed in these different backgrounds, all the things you learned, successful in business, you began to develop these ideas. One of the ideas that you're beginning to develop is this, what you refer to as the 7 stages of stuckness. So, kind of talk us through about this evolution of you as a person, as a business professional, the things that you were learning and beginning to put together, this academy that you created, and
Yeah.
this idea of stuckness. And I love that because that is so much of like what I do too, is all of us can experience it where we can't get out of our own way. I feel stuck. I self-sabotage myself. All these different
Mhm.
things. So
Mhm.
why don't you talk a little bit about that evolution on your part and how all this kind of began to develop?
Yeah, coach. Thanks for that. I will say that this is born from a 25 plus year journey of, and then looking back at what happens when I hit what I call a career crossroad. My first big one was my release day from professional baseball. And then that first thought is, man, what do I do? Who am I? Where do I belong? What am I interested in? How do I get there? Of course, going back to school helped me sort of offset this deeper thought. But that sort of, as I go back in time and I'm looking at these crossroads, if you will, moving from professional athletes into what's next, or moving into working in pharmaceutical sales and biotech sales, and then what's next, or what else is a part of me, and then moving into television, I discovered that there's not just my journey, but I've also been quietly interviewing other people, right? You probably you do this too. You know, I'm at a supermarket, I'm at a coffee shop. Small talk is not never really small talk for me. It's like, hey, what do you do? Oh, how did you get there? Oh, wow, what did it take for you to even know that that was a thing for you? How did you become this Academy Award winning sound design guy who happens to be a friend of mine, or this big time sports agent? And over time, I'm discovering that almost everyone hit a pivot, like this crossroads, as I mentioned. And some of it is what I coin as the fog. This first level of these 7 stages of stuckness is fog. It's like, who am I? Where am I supposed to be? I can't see 5 feet in front of me. And you have to start clearing that fog, and there's skill sets to help you do that. And the power skill that's associated with doing that is self awareness. So, in this academy that I built, we talk a lot, at least with our digital courses, about these 7 stages. One being mental fog. The delay loop is what you just mentioned, you know, talking yourself out of good things, this cognitive dissonance. Is this right? Is this not right? You're stuck in what I call a performance trap next, which is you're not quite sure that what you're doing is good enough. And up to stage 7, where you're just comfortable being miserable. Right? It's like I couldn't figure it all out. Now I'm here and I want more. I'm capable of more. I know I can offer more, but I haven't decided on I haven't taken the appropriate steps to get out of this comfortable misery. These are the folks that stay in their 30, 40-year role unfulfilled, never challenging themselves, never discovering who they really are. So these 7 stages of stuckness, each one of them pairs with what I call a power skill. And our Edge Code Academy teaches quite a bit, a lot about what power skills you need, which were previously coined, coach, soft skills, right? Remember back in the day, soft skills. Well, in the age of AI and innovation now, power skills are quintessential. They're the foundational skills that you need to get through that stage of stuckness. So whether it's learning emotional intelligence or self-awareness, AI literacy, teamwork and collaboration, communication skills, critical thinking, adaptability and cultural intelligence. They're all sort of answers to the stages of the brain fog. And so first you have to identify it. So we have assessment tools, 3 to 5 minute quizzes for our Edge Code Academy that helps you determine what stage of stuckness are you in. And we have to also know that at each stage you may be a different person. You could be entering in a career field. You could be a junior level person trying to have a promotion, or you're going back into your old career after taking time off, or you've worked in a career for 15 years and now you want to do something different. You want to start a business. Each one of those career segues are moments of stuckness. So the Edge Code Academy helps clear that area out, helps you understand what you uniquely bring to the table for yourself, and arms you with those skills so that ultimately you can show up a better self and be more valuable in the room.
And one of the things I want to kind of hone in for a minute there, like you said, is that this idea of becoming aware, right? The self-assessment tools, those sort of things. You've got to bring that. A lot of people, it's working unconsciously, right? So they feel stuck because something's going on unconsciously that's just doesn't feel right. The fog you kind of talked about, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we've all been through it. So this idea of beginning to become aware of it is incredibly powerful, right? Just that alone, never mind some of these other things you're talking about to try to get people beyond that, but just that alone can really open people's eyes. That some of the work I did over the years with these kids who had troubles was beginning to make them aware and discovering these beliefs they had that like I'm not a good math student. Well, how do you know? Like, according to who?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you comparing yourself to? Like, just questions
Mm-hmm.
like that begin to kind of go, uh, because they've never really thought about those sort of things. And when you interrupt those patterns often enough, then you are opening them up for the potential of changing or shifting that mindset. So, I love the work that you're doing there, and helping people begin to make identify those areas and all that, because you can be a highly successful, highly driven person, and all of a sudden you get stuck. There's something
Yeah.
there, right? Like, and that's
Yeah.
you. And I've done a lot of self work, but there are times where, because I'm operating at the level of my own challenge, I need
Hmm.
somebody else to help me get a different perspective on it. And I can't do it myself because I'm at that level. I need somebody else's eyes. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have people like you and like me, right? It helps people get
Hmm.
that other perspective. So that's beautiful. The other thing I wanted to kind of ask you about, because I think this is really beginning to play in the world, and working a lot with younger people. There's the AI driven world, right? It is changing so rapidly, and there's so much. You had mentioned some of the important skills, like um, the soft skills, communication skills, social emotional intelligence, incredibly valuable skills, right? And now we're throwing people in with, like, oh, what is AI going to be doing to my the career I'm in? What's it going to be doing to how I work with people and interact with people? It is unlike anything we've really seen come down the pike. Can you talk about what you are seeing and what you are all these work you're doing with your academy and this, and where you see even professional people looking at this, and I don't want to get too deep into that. I mean, we could do a whole show on AI and all its
Of course.
implications, good or bad or dangerous or helpful and all that. But from that human element, you want to kind of talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're spot on. This is the great debate. This is what the television news shows are talking about. This is what the LinkedIn, the Deloitte's, the McKinsey research organizations are talking about. And it's not usually talking about these changes in terms of the personal challenges people are dealing with. They're usually talking about it in terms of profit-centered companies and the challenges they're dealing with, right? So it's a reverse conversation in the ethos here. We're talking about big corporations that are now using automation tools that can replace redundant skills, things that are done, or what do we call redundant activities of humans. And they're usually talking about this in terms of layoffs and what people are doing, how they're reducing workforces. But what they're not talking about is how many of those roles are now being replaced by roles that require the management of those AI automated tools. So this comes into the biggest challenge that people are being faced with, especially young people, and it is this adaptability, resilience, and emotional intelligence sort of landscape where people that are fearful of the automation coming online are typically people that haven't taken the time to become more fluent in artificial intelligence. They're not working on the skills that are required. Because here's the truth about all of this: the folks that get left behind aren't the ones that are establishing and learning AI literacy. They're the ones that haven't even started. They're the ones that haven't even understood that LLMs, large language model platforms, aren't doing a search on Google, right? We have to now put ourselves in the role of manager, leader, builder, creator. We are all innately creative, coach. You know this. We're born creative. We're endowed by our creator to create and make things. And I think we get sucked into this space of a corporate job where you're just doing tasks, but you're not building and making things. So the mindset shift for this new age has to be, what am I innately able to create and build and manage? Am I influential? Am I persuasive? Can I work with people? Should I be out in sales? Is working in a cubicle as a data analyst my thing? Am I the board identity working behind a cubicle, or am I actually a superpowered agent that needs to be out in the field and taking on the bad guys in Prague or something, right? Maybe there's more for where you're at, but you don't do it unless you discover it and develop the skills that I mentioned, the 5 core skills, and then there's 10 in total. But I think what's happening is employers and hiring managers and HR companies are now discovering the gaps in what they need. And these power skill background people are the ones that are winning. So while automation is taking over, you still have a chance to stay relevant. And it's following the framework that we just talked about earlier, being relevant, being seen, being visible, and being known for something that helps you overcome it.
One of the things I um, talk a lot about are fears that people have, and fear of the unknown is often a big one. So a new technology comes in, and human nature often puts up, fear takes over, and they become worried about what it can do. But
Yeah.
one of the things I've been learning as I use AI regularly, and there are concerns I have about use of AI, and particularly younger people, if they don't learn how to use it, an over reliance on it, the inability to learn to think on your own. But one of the things and it's not just AI, it's technology in general, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. We're having an opportunity to have a conversation thousands of miles apart.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But it's still humans interacting conversationally. I don't think it would be nearly as powerful as it would be if you were sitting next to me in a room. But the practical purpose of that makes that not prohibitive. But those people skills, those human connection skills are never going to go away. Those are incredibly valuable. In fact, I think they become more valuable the more technology takes over because the more people begin to crave it. And if we let our mindset go like, oh man, I nothing I could do. I'm not going to be able to compete. You're in trouble, right? So you got to
I'm done.
have that shift. But that human element is something to me is hopeful, like because we're all humans. So w- we need that. You're about to say something, so go ahead,
Yeah,
jump in here.
I think that this is relevant, applicable to the neighbors in our neighborhood, to the people we work with in our companies, to the students we share classrooms with, to the church and your congregation, and to sports teams. It's all of it. Human connection is what's made us progress as anthropologically, right? We've only moved forward by building community and working in small groups, and in my human performance sort of focus and working in health and wellness with my Melly Life platform. We talk a lot about how interpersonal connection is the key to longevity and wellness. That feeling of love, the hormones, the secretions of oxytocin, and all those things from feeling connected actually is healing. So we'll take plant-based diets out of it, we'll take exercise out of it, and just know that one of the core components to all of this and success in life and business is an openness and understanding of who you are, being self-aware, understanding, having empathy and collective knowledge that a knowledge that other people are uniquely different, and understanding that their perspective, that's emotional intelligence, and being a critical thinker and not accepting what comes at you from an AI result, questioning most things, and then having a plan. So I think this human connection happens when you're more capable, when you feel more confident, coach. You can walk in any room and, like I said, the Starbucks down the street, and have a nice, healthy conversation with virtually anybody because you feel more capable. And so I think, regardless of what's happening with AI, we need to arm ourselves with that sort of feeling of I belong here, right? There's no question, and I have something to give to the world. And then I'm going to connect with you and try to give it to you, or try to help you with your answers. And the more innately sort of empowered you are, the more you're going to want to share that with others. And that's what helps humanity progress, right? That's what helps moving the human spirit and keeping us all sort of unified, right? So I think you hit it on the head. And I think there's frameworks to help sort of build that up. But the idea of knowing that connectedness is the key, regardless of the digital platform you're logged into, period.
You know, there's a lot of data, and this kind of falls in a lot of the realm of the work I'm trying to do with young people. The generation that's coming up is the most connected socially group in history, yet the data is showing they are the loneliest group. And like we usually think of loneliness, that senior generation as they begin to lose, their family, their friends, their inner circles begin to that that loneliness is a natural thing that we're concerned about with seniors happening. Well, it's
Yeah.
happening with young people at an alarming rate. And there's there's another whole topic for another whole show, but there's that had nothing to do with like AI and all. That's got to do with people beginning to lose the understanding and importance of being connected socially. I've thought a lot recently. I've begun to kind of wonder a little bit about the first century when Christianity began to spread. And the first
Mhm.
thing the apostles were doing were they were planting churches, right? The idea of you come together as these new believers, what have you, you're forming these little communities.
Yeah.
That that's been going on for thousands of years. When settlers came to the new continents, wherever they were going, they began to build churches, a center for community, for people to gather. And there's the religious aspect of that aside, the need for like-minded people to come together and support each other, empower each other, encourage each other is vital. And learning how to do that, having the mindset of things like people are our greatest resource, is life changing. It really, truly is.
It
Um,
is.
you want
Yeah.
I want to ask you what your thoughts are about this emotional intelligence, competitive advantage, but the young people too. Like, um, and I don't know how much you work with young people. I don't know how much you deal with that, but I, I you know that's where my heart lies. But I think it's some of the things we were talking about through this are things that, yeah, there's a lot of professional people who need what we're talking about. Those,
Yeah.
those there's a lot of burnout at the professional level, a lot of stress that people are feeling. They don't know how to deal with it.
Hmm.
But part of me is also like, boy, if we could teach some of these skills to the younger people before they get there, oh, how much better that would be. You want to jump in on that part of this?
Absolutely, man. I'll tell you, Coach, I gave you the top five, right? EQ, critical thinking, AI literacy, self-awareness, and 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 I'll tell you that, and emotional intelligence, of course, being at the top of the head of all of these. I'll tell you, this is something I've worked on with some of my other colleagues with a nonprofit we started building. It's still underway. It's a mentoring platform that helps connect young people with business professionals that show them how they became who they are in their careers. But having these, I think school can only do so much giving us knowledge now, man. That's it. We got the most knowledgeable tools sitting in our lap right now, right? All the world's intelligence right in front of us. I think if we now, with young people, and I'll talk about my experience with more mature folks, I think with young people, if we can give them the security and safety and comfort of knowing that they're okay every room that they're in, and that's the capability note that I gave you earlier, and in really honing, I do my best with my daughter. She's 12 years old now, on the emotional intelligence side of this, because really, guess what? It's not about you. If you're not getting the things you want in life, if the job's not, promotion's not coming your way, It's not about you. If someone calls you into the room and tells you, "Hey, you're expected to do this and you're not doing that," many people these days are taking it personally. It's an affront to their egos. And young people, believe it or not, man, they have bigger egos than my middle-aged best friends because they have 2,000 friends on their socials, or they just got 55 likes within 5 minutes, and they're ascribing their relevance to fleeting sort of interest that dies, it waxes, it wanes, right? It goes. So I think this challenge that young people are having this identity and this loss of feeling connected, like you mentioned, this loneliness factor that's actually for the first time shared more broadly with young people as it is compared to older people that are seniors and living alone, is coming from the fact that we don't know how to contribute. We don't have a purpose, and our purpose is finding other people's purposes and chasing other people's ideals of what looks good and what's interesting. And this rolls back into having that capability as a foundation, so knowing that you can contribute. So our value is directly proportional to how much contribution we give to that human base, right? You mentioned the humans are the most valuable asset. Well, contributing to humans is the most valuable action. So when we get our young people and our middle-aged people to think of how can I contribute in the most ultimate way possible, then those sense of loneliness and connectedness kind of go away, and we feel like we belong. And you talked about the church, right? It's a sense of belonging. We have a place to go where we're all broken. We're all seeking connection with the higher powers. This is not law. This is hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. We're looking to connect and be a part of something and contribute to something greater than ourselves. And I think we all need to know that that's what we're up against. So when I talk to older people, and when I talk to even established executives that had a major exit from one of their ventures, I realize, guess what, coach? High school never goes away. High school never goes away. There's still that one person that's the bully. There's the other one that doesn't want to date you. There's the company that doesn't want to be a part of you. You're trying your best to be seen. I've had to deal with it at my relationship with Abbott, in that after time, and I had the recognitions of top performing sales rep and all these great things, but I was still looking for validation to say that I'm okay, I'm good. But the real key is being okay with yourself and not letting someone else tell you you have value. You have to know that you have value. And that's the key to removing the loneliness, because then you'll connect. Does that make sense?
That's speaking my language when you talk about some of that stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
just kind of looking at the clock here, but I want to kind of wrap this up. What you're talking about there, well, you could go in so many different directions. I've mentor. I love mentoring people, right? But
Hmm.
when I do that, I'm working with families, and
Hmm.
it's just me. I can only do so much, right? So
Hmm.
I have a lot of the things, like my own academy kind of thing, right? Where a whole online training kind of program. But the challenge becomes, you're probably well aware of some of these statistics. When you like sell courses or things like that, people will buy it and then they won't follow through, right? They
They want
they,
shit.
they won't they just and it doesn't go anywhere. And it's natural. I've done it myself, right? I go, oh, that looks like a cool course. I'll sign up $60 for this little webinar, and
Hmm.
whatever excuse I give myself. So, I had to kind of begin, and this is still in the process of this of figuring out. All right, need to have like other mentors, other people who are already having relationships with young people in particular, or it doesn't have to be just young people, but that's where my heart is, who can then in that relationship take this training and go, let's do this now together. and then
Yeah.
it gets done. Then it happens. Then progress can get made. If you don't have that relationship right there with them, the likelihood that it happens gets reduced dramatically. So
Yeah.
I think all of us can play that sort of role, being a mentor, being a relationship builder, passing on this knowledge. And when we formalize it, like it sounds like you've done in your own system and I've done, we now
Hmm.
have tools for other people to be able to use, taking our experiences and knowledge and work and be able to, you know, really help empower people. So, um, love that. Final words. Give you a chance to wrap up and tell people too how they can learn more about your academy, what you're doing. So take the
Yeah.
stage.
Oh man, thanks for wrapping it up that way. So your who you are every day is this ideal person that we need around us all the time. We all need a coach. We all need a mentor. We all need a guide, if you will. And the challenge is having the power skill of self awareness to know as a recipient that you need it. That's the key. We need help from our doctors. We need help from our family members. We need it. And we have to understand that in order for us to move anywhere, we don't do it alone. It doesn't happen alone. And then we on the other side that are more capable, someone like yourself or some one that's committed to developing people, we know that that is our calling. And so this is the balance of human evolution: is that those that teach and those that are ready to learn, right? So I will say that's part of my call. My close is that we all need to come to that self realization of what it is that we do better and more uniquely than anyone, and find a way to open the doors of someone else's capabilities, if you will, to allow them to give them permission to do the same. So, in the world that I'm living in now, the world that I'm moving toward in healthcare and also in personal development, is I'm helping people that are capable of doing more, but just feel stuck. They feel like they're at a roadblock, helping them to discover what that roadblock is, to define the scope of it all, and to develop the skills that are needed to overcome it, and then get toward forward momentum. That's it, to accelerate and keep moving and get not just to the goal line, but beyond the goal line. And that's done with Edge Code Academy. You can find my Power Skills course at edgecodehq.com and take the stuckness quiz. It takes 3 to 5 minutes and you'll have a full on report to know where you're at. And in our 90-minute course on the Power Skill Reset, that allows you to align power skills to give you the ability to pull out of those stages of stuckness, is all learned in a 90-minute course. So hopefully 90 minutes is achievable for a low ticket item to get you a little more insight and a little more awareness of where you need to go. And guess what, coach? People have learnings from multiple places. So we're not alone in that. I've taken a lot of courses that forced me to take another course, because you learn that I know a little more, but then I got more to learn, right? So it never stops. So that being said, H Code Academy is really wired to help people at this stage of identity and moving toward momentum. And maybe there's another course that takes you above and beyond that. So if we can capture you early and get you back on your way, then we're winning.
Can yeah, I love what you're doing, and we will put links to your stuff in the description of the show. And for all of you out there, I strongly encourage you to seek other people out, right? And when I mentioned this idea that people sign up for courses and don't necessarily finish them, uh, it doesn't mean I don't advocate going out there and taking them. I want you to finish them. Like when you sign up for a course, like see it through, because there's so much that you can pull out of it and get out of that. Knowledge is irreplaceable. So I strongly encourage that. And also, as always, I talk about the mentorships, in particular, the Champions Mindset Mentorship that we offer, a limited number of families, but that ability for us to purposefully, intentionally kind of go through what I refer to as the SOAR framework, identify the seeds of the stories that you guys tell yourselves, show you how to take ownership of some of those things that you may not really want to have in there, how to then weed those out, and how you as a family can be each other's encouragement team, empowerment team, and then the importance of building rituals into your life, particularly morning and evening rituals. We go through all of that in a pretty intensive mentorship program. You can check that out at the championsmentorship.com. And again, the link for that will be in the description. Until the next show, I encourage you to go out and live life to the fullest.